Live now, Libby.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the January 13th meeting of the Economic Development Committee. And I call the meeting to order by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabeg territory and is the traditional territory of Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. So the first item is the approval of the agenda. So the approval of agenda for the January 13th, 2022 Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting. Could I have a mover and seconder? I can't get
I'll
this
move
off
to
my
approve
screen.
it. I'll move to approve that.
I think we just lost Libby.
Lost the chair.
Hold on a second here. She's rejoining. Just one moment.
Did we lose Marty as well?
Yeah, there's something definitely wonky going on.
Sorry about that. We're not
That's
doing very
okay.
well for our time there, Ron, are we? We had
Oh, I gotta
Karen,
go now.
we had Karen move the motion. Did we have a seconder?
I will second.
Emily, thank you. So as per the terms of reference of our committee, we will need to hold an election now for chair of this committee and vice chair. So I guess I'll pass that to Ben.
No, I think Libby, since you're still the chair, you can go ahead
Oh.
and do that. And until you're not the chair, then
Okay.
it's still your responsibility.
Well, I don't really know how to do that, but are there any nominations for the position of chair of the Economic Development Advisory Committee of the Municipality of Brighton?
I'd like to leave you as chair if it works, if you're accepting, Libby.
I'll
Karen?
second that if you need
I
a
will-
second.
Thank you, Ron. Karen, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to second that motion as well. I agree with that.
Well, thank you. Is there any other interest in this position? Okay, well, thank you. I'll accept that. Thank you very much. And nomination and election of vice chair. If I can nominate, I'll nominate Ron again. If there's a seconder for that.
I'll second that.
Okay. How do you feel about that, Ron?
Thank you. I'll accept that. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, then thank you. We'll have status quo for now. Thank you very much. Are there any conflicts of interest for today's agenda? Okay, you're back, Marty.
Yeah.
Okay, so hearing none, we'll move on. This is the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the November 4th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move it.
Ron, Karen, thank you.
Second.
No delegations, I presume, Ben?
Nope.
Ben? No. Okay, so municipal update will go. This went awfully quick. Did I miss anything? Okay, so municipal update from Ben. I have a couple of items, including the BRNE, to get back to you on, Ben, so you can leave that out if you want and just go with your municipal update.
Sure, you can go ahead with that right now if you want.
Ah, okay, so I wrote some notes so I wouldn't forget anything. So with regards to, this is actually unfinished business, item 9.1. business retention and expansion project, you were all sent a draft for any comments. So it's still open for comments if you have any. So Ben and I have been discussing a little bit as to how to deliver this, because typically, normally, it would be in person so that you would get the best feedback from the businesses. But this is really not a great time to be having in-person and face-to-face meetings with anybody. So I've been concerned about that. So we feel that it's a bit risky, and been looking at other methods of getting the information that we need from businesses and opinions. We've been looking at telephone, which is also great, Zoom calls, online and paper completion that they would self-complete themselves. And we've also mentioned it to Trevor Kroll, who, of course, his department on NAFRA is the creator of this program. And he also feels that it needs to be sort of a hybrid of methods. Perhaps we would offer various options to businesses. I will pass that on to Ben in a minute to see if he has more comments and an update. But once this has been determined, then we'll work on a schedule for rollout of the project and share that with you for your input at that time. I don't know, Ben, if you have any further thoughts on when we might, get going. I know everybody wanted it like first thing in the year, but I just think it'll be a little bit delayed just because of working out how we're actually going to deliver this and so on. So that would be all I would have to say on the DRNA update. I'll pass to Ben for more.
Yeah, sure. Just before I get to my other items, we'll stick with the BRNE. Like Libby mentioned, we're discussing, we think we've got pretty close to a survey ready to go. I think we're on the second draft, and we've consulted with Trevor from OMAFRA, obviously, and his feelings are that in person is going to be a little touch and go for the time being, maybe until spring or even after. So we're looking at alternative methods. Fortunately, the municipality is well equipped with online survey options, with Zoom, with any way we need to make sure this rolls out. If we get a mild day and there's a business owner comfortable meeting in person, maybe an outdoor chat could work. I'm not sure. So there's lots of options there to make sure this gets delivered. We are looking at options to see how this is going to be, how from a human resources perspective, how this is going to work. So I think I've nailed down how we're going to do that. Basically, we need to put this out the same we would as a RFP and try to acquire separate consultants to submit a bid, and hopefully we get some good experienced folks that are well equipped to deliver these surveys and interviews, so we can get some real concrete data for Libby to formulate her report. This is all contingent to the operating budget. So we just had our first meeting on Monday, and I'm not a municipal official, but I don't foresee this being an arduous process. I think we've got 2 more meetings scheduled, and hopefully by the end of the month, early Feb, we're buttoning something up, and we can get on with more stuff. But the funds that are in my budget to pay the interviews, to hire the consultants are still sort of in the process. So in the meantime, we're just going to continue working at sorting out the survey, getting it ready to go. We are fortunate that we do have a really robust business directory, business list of over just under 300 businesses. So we really feel we're going to capture as many people as possible, and hopefully lots of folks decide to help us out and take the survey, and we're able to acquire all sorts of data from every single sector. So that's kind of the update on the BRNE at this moment. I would think we're up and running and interviewing people by, late February, early March. I think that's pretty safe to assume.
May I make a comment, Madam Chair, on the,
Yes,
first of all, I want to congratulate you on the work that you've done here. It's very extensive and very comprehensive, and I was really impressed with it. And because of that, it's quite an onerous process, I believe, for business people to complete. Important, but lengthening. I would hope that our first choice, if there's an option, would be to do this in person. I think that it's, and I'm sure that was your intention to begin with. Perhaps we can make requests of in-person visits first. I know that this is a time when people don't want to meet, but practically, I mean, sitting 6 feet away with masks on, you can certainly do that if that's in the budget. And then after that, try the telephone or any other options. The last option I think that we should rely on is just sending them the survey and asking them to complete it online, because that seems like the least likely to get comprehensive completion of that.
yeah, you're right, absolutely right in ranking those. What I have found with people who self-complete the survey is that they pick out the bits they like, and they take it as an opportunity to speak their mind and don't follow the whole pattern. So it is the least desirable option, but it is better than nothing. If somebody is like, well, I'll
Sure.
self-complete it or go away, then that's what we would do. But I guess we need to. I like telephone as well. You can if you're skilled at the language that you can use, you can get a lot of information out of people. The only problem with telephone is that people find it easier to get rid of you than if you're sitting in front of them. So certainly face-to-face is the best way to go, but we'll work on that. And then, give us another month or so, maybe conditions will have changed and, we can, so I guess we'll see how that goes.
Anything more on BRNE? Okay, I'll continue on with some stuff I've got here. So yeah, we did a press release last week just to get out in the community, out into the region, how active the municipality of Brighton was in 2021. And I'll just go over some of those numbers if you haven't seen them yet. So there was 304 building permits issued in 2021 in Brighton. This is the most since 2005. And the number that year was 255. So it's a pretty large increase in activity. Construction value of 129 million this year. So just to compare that to last year was 37 million. Now there was a $50 million hit just in the one project in the Brighton Retirement Living project. But even if you take that, 50 million out of the equation, you're still up substantially from years past. So, there's an awful lot happening. Out of those permits, 10 of them were commercial / agricultural. 2 of them were industrial, and there was 119 new housing dwellings. So really, really high, really positive numbers for our community. Some not so positive numbers, depending how you look at it. I pulled some of this stuff specifically from the housing market because we sort of anecdotally mention how crazy the housing market is and how unfair it is. We don't really ever talk about the data just in conversation. And I thought I would just sort of pull some data here to really give everyone an understanding of what our community, specifically of Brighton, is going through when it comes to housing market. So in November of 2021, 2 months ago, there were 17 new listings. The average days spent on the market were 7. There was 16 homes sold in November. The average sale price of those 16 homes sold, $620,000. Months of inventory, 0.4. So months of inventory, for those that maybe don't know that, I didn't know that metric until recently, what is a measure of how fast all the existing homes on the market would last, assuming there were no more listings added. And from last year, so from November 2020 to November 21, we're seeing a 25% increase price over 1 year. And then in December, so everyone thinks, holiday season, no one's really looking to move, no one's looking to buy. That's when sort of the start of the dead season comes. Well, not so fast. There were 9 new listings, an average of 10 days spent on the market, and there were 12 homes sold in the month of December, just in Brighton alone. The average sale price of these homes was $706,000, 0.2 months of inventory, and a 30% increase from last year in December of 2020. So just to give you a real raw look of what the housing market is in this community specifically. This isn't Quinte region. This isn't Northumberland County. This is Brighton itself. So you can imagine if you're 28, 30 years old and think you're doing okay, you have a partner that makes a good salary, and you have yourself that makes a good salary, and you're looking to get into the housing market, and you're being asked to put down a $75,000, $85,000 down payment. Are you kidding me? We're not going to attract any young people to this community if that's the case. And that's what's going on in the Quinte region, in Brighton specifically right now. So that's a huge catastrophe, if you ask me. How you solve that, I have no idea. I'm just presenting the numbers.
The banks will take care of that when they raise their rates, and it'll work out.
Okay, more positive stuff here. Downtown activity in 2021 was flourishing. Fire and Time Pottery opened. Swan Accounting opened. The County Flame Restaurant opened. The Tin Roof rebranded and reopened. The Birdhouse moved downtown. Pet Value just opened at the end of 2021. Pizza Hut just opened at the end of 2021. And Esso has bought the gas station on the corner and has begun to rebrand that and make it look a lot better. So that's just, 6-8 really positive items for our downtown core in 2021. Prominent business openings. The Trust Plant / Home Hardware Building Center at the 40 Butler Street property. Huge success. They're employing people, upwards of 30 folks. They can't keep up with demand, just like all building supply companies cannot. But to make that site relevant again, and more than relevant as a really positive fixture in our community from a manufacturing standpoint, was a huge win for our community. New construction projects, Brighton Retirement Living, started in the spring. They're well into building walls and truss and footings, and things are moving quite well there. Bain Construction broke ground on a new Brighton site, and Steve Crow Excavating, he's got walls up, he's got a roof up, and he's moving into the industrial park as well. The pop-up project has started in 2021. And I've got great news. Just at the end of 2021 in December, we received a $4,000 grant from the Community Activator Fund, which is part of the Canadian Urban Institute, a branch of FedDev. We received a $4,000 grant for our design consultation. As well, the capital budget approval for the work that needs to be done to the building was approved for $35,000. And we have applied to an OMAFRA grant of about $11,000, and we still haven't heard on that. So I know Caroline has a few more things, and I'll let her take over from here.
Hi, everyone. Just a few things to update you on that we've been working on. I wanted to start off with the Community Kilometers Challenge we launched earlier in the month. So this idea Ben and I came up with in December. It's essentially a step challenge for all of Brighton. So we've bought software through a company called MoveSpring, and they've created a leaderboard for us, which has allowed anyone in Brighton who's interested to sign up to have their steps tracked on their Fitbit, iPhone, whatever kind of device they're using. We initially bought 30 spaces of the software, thinking that it would be a good kind of baseline, and we were surprisingly overwhelmed to the point where we had to buy 20 more spaces, and currently we're up to 56 participants logging their steps and competing against each other, and they'll be completing that well into February. So that's been a huge success, and we're hoping to maybe redo another challenge because there has been so much demand in the warmer weather. Another component to that is we're promoting local tourism assets, so encouraging people to get outside, explore new trails, try some of the online yoga classes that are now happening due to the recent closures, and just trying to complement the tourism and business side of the challenge as well. In December, we did the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas video. So I was around filming different businesses for about 4 months. And at the end, we had 20 local businesses and organizations that were represented in the video. And on our social media, we reached over 4,000 people from everywhere from Kingston to Oshawa. So that was really good exposure for us, and it seemed to get a lot of positive feedback from the community as well. So definitely something that we'll look at doing again in the future, maybe with a different story. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about one social media post that's done incredibly well. I did a feature on Uncle Joe's attic, and to date, we've reached over 12,000 people and had 3,000 different reactions to this post. And it's gone above and beyond my wildest expectations. And I just wanted to share that just because I think it's a good kind of news story to get Brighton businesses, on the map, and have people know what we have to offer in our community.
I'll just add one more thing. Today is going to be the opening of the outdoor rinks in the community. So we have one in King Edward Park in the baseball diamond infield, and we have one in Codrington, kind of in that area beside the Codrington Hall. And so those are going to be officially opened for usage today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it from our end.
Thanks, Ben. It all sounds great to hear all those numbers and stats, and Caroline as well. Are there any questions for either Ben or Caroline before we move on?
I'll make a comment. I think both of you worked so hard on a lot of these events. They're obviously panning out. Every time you do something, it seems to escalate and get better and better. So hats off to you for that. As far as the community, the commercial business, the new business, even businesses that move to better themselves, that's so positive. And I think we need to you do a good job recognizing them. We're all over social media, that type of thing. But I know you can't go you're standing at their front door and handing them a certificate or anything right now. It's not easy, but the more we can recognize new business coming to town in whatever way, and even try to do that so it expands outside the area, we'll get more recognition and more attention from commercial, I'll call them commercial developers, to people that make the decision for franchises and if it's a franchise. But it'd be nice to have some more mom and pop businesses, but that could be a little risky in these times for groups like that too. A good time for planning, but not necessarily a good time to put your money on the table to go into a venture like that. But I think anything we can do to bring attention. And there's some, we've talked about a couple of commercial facilities that the municipality would like to see. And if we can do more to promote that in our interest to outside, we might trip over some more groups like that. So it's been great to see so many, and it doesn't matter the size. It's, we're not looking for big boxes so much. We're looking for that small, whether it's a franchise. Franchise means also it's a private owner. It's a local owner usually that owns that franchise. So when people do talk about a certain store or a restaurant or something, and they, and it's got a franchise name on it, that doesn't mean that a corporate from Timbuktu that's come here. That's some local person that's invested in our community, and we should be showing a lot of gratitude to them for doing that. So anyhow, you're doing great. I think more attention you do on that, the better.
Yeah, just to validate Ron's point there a bit, the owner of Pet Value has had the Trenton franchise for 25 years. And he decided, based on his customer base, that there was a lot of traffic coming from Brighton and even west of Brighton and north of Brighton. And the building came up, and they investigated it. He talked to the folks at his head office, and they thought it had enough market, and now we have our own branded franchise pet store in Brighton. I know it competes with another locally owned shop, but there's a lot of really great resources in that pet store. There's the little spa at the far end, and he employs three full-time folks and 3 part-time folks, and it's only 6 jobs. It's only 3 full-time jobs. I totally understand that, but they were 3 full-time jobs that weren't here 2 months ago. And we've got to be cognizant of the fact that the labor force is not flourishing. And the more businesses that can be creative and that we can bring in that aren't, huge labor resource stressors, I think the better, because then they don't constantly have that hiring sign at the front of their business, and they can retain, they can treat people well, so on and so forth. So just a little side note from Ron's comment there.
Thank you.
One more thing.
Oh,
One more
sorry,
little
yes.
thing. You hear it every day where people want to keep our town. I'm going to use their expressions, but our town, a small town, keep it quaint, keep it the way it was. And we hear this all the time. But by having smaller business, and you could have 100 small businesses versus a couple of big boxes. This is what they're talking about. They want to see that quaintness, the more personal touch, and they want choice. And we need more. Obviously, we need more choice, more variety of commercial. I'm not going to pick on the pizza people because everybody eats pizza, but we need more variable type businesses. And by us continuing to put the word out there and support those businesses, somebody's going to come in here real soon, because the opportunities for Brighton is incredible right now. So you're seeing, the big city, larger communities just swamped with all those type of facilities, but we're lacking in some of those facilities. So, and you made a good point. Here we are, we're so close to Cobourg and Trent Hills and that whole look at our little region. Forget about going much further east than even Quinte West. We've got a huge market that can be captured here, and people don't want to drive so far anymore. So to come to Brighton, if you live in this region or work or travel through this region, we're perfect. So hopefully we can get that message out there more.
Okay, Councillor Rowley, did you have a comment or?
I just wanted to also comment on the Pet Value, Ben. I know it came up in the FICE project, and I know it's also been a concern with the DBIA. There's been chatter about that as well. These are local people. If I can just ask, and it's not to get into their business, obviously, did they purchase the building, Ben? Are they like locally owned now, because the building was owned by and out of town folks. So just wondering, as far as if they own the building, it certainly kind of brings a little bit more commitment and a little bit more engagement with those kind of things, if I can ask that question.
I honestly, I asked him about 50,000 questions that day, and that was one I did not. So I can't answer that question with a full blown confirmed response. I don't know if Caroline, do you know? No. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can't answer that.
Okay, that's okay. Thanks anyway.
I don't think it
So-
matters. I think it's another one of
Yeah.
those franchise situations. They probably have a 5 to 10 year franchise agreement. They're gonna be here and they're gonna make sure their business runs well like it did in Quinny West anyhow.
Yeah,
And
it's a
it
great little
still-
business.
It still does in Quinny West, sorry.
I see Megan has joined us, but if, with your indulgence, Megan, if we could give you a few minutes, and I'd like to move on to unfinished business because I know that Ron has to leave and there's an important item on 9.2. Would that be okay to skip to that and get your report afterwards, Megan?
Yeah, I actually wasn't able to attend the last DBIA meeting as it conflicted with my shop hours, so.
Okay.
But I
All
think
right,
Caroline
we'll
was
get
at,
back to you. Okay.
yeah, I think Caroline was at the last meeting.
Okay, so I wanted to bring up, this is an item that Karen brought up at the last meeting, which is item 9.2 under unfinished business. And it's a review and discussion regarding the waterfront master plan. So I have a few notes made, and then I'd like to open it up for any discussion. If people had a chance to read it, it is a study that is a 13-year-old plan right now. A lot of interesting data there. If you haven't read it yet, check out Next Steps on page 17, which starts with phase 1 for Gosport. I'm not sure how to proceed from here or if the committee wants to, but just my recommendations would be to ask the primary consultant, and in this case, I believe the primary consultant would have been O'Brien and Associates, to do a refresh, which would only be a fraction of the cost of the original study, in light of recent waterfront developments, as well as more current stats, or ask a second consulting firm with this type of specialty experience to review and update the study. Either way, it could include phasing as well as funding options, which is a really important part. Like, it's fine to say you need this and you need that, but then, to identify, a good consultant will be able to identify programs that you could access and that sort of thing, as well as current day costings. And to establish a new waterfront committee with a new mandate to establish phased in work. A work plan to present to council for discussion in the future. Just as a final note for me is point 7.5 of Appendix A. It's noted there that there's a disconnect between the waterfront and central businesses in Brighton. And it would be interesting to ask that question in the BRNE about what they feel is the value of the waterfront and does it enhance their business or the municipality in general. So I think that's something that we should give a little thought to, and I could add another question into to the BRNE. So I guess my question is, I'd like to open it for comments, and then maybe we could discuss how or if we proceed. Obviously my own personal opinion is that there is a wonderful waterfront down there that is we don't want it to be overused, but we don't want it to be untapped either. And other municipalities, as noted in the study, are really making better use of their waterfront and possibly generating more better economic development uses. So I think we need to get on the bandwagon, but I'd like to hear what everybody thinks.
I have a couple of comments. I was familiar with the waterfront plan, but not familiar with any kind of implementation or difficulties for implementation at the time. I wasn't involved in this. If there's anybody here that was and has the background knowledge on why more wasn't done, I'd be interested in hearing that. Now, The obvious would be a lack of funding, I'm sure, because there's a lot of expense there. There was mention in the study about political will and difficulty with some of the communities in getting on board with this, which of course is critical. I feel that some of the areas now, particularly Gosport, is really undergoing a change. There's been substantial investment down there now, private investment, and I just think it's a great time to take advantage of backing up that private investment by some community and municipal investment now. So do any of you have any background or to what evolved after this plan was presented to the community and to council?
Well, I believe our own mayor was the chair of that committee at the time, and I'm sure he can bring us up to date.
Well, that's a true story. I was chair of that committee at the time, and there was significant pushback from the waterfront community after the plan was released, to the point where after the municipal election of that time, when I got to sit home for 4 years, the plan was shelved, essentially, and nothing's happened to it until very recently, where we brought it out and said we really should take another look at this. So thank you for bringing this up. I think it is an important economic development piece, but I will let this committee know that we have a recreational facilities task force that was struck, and part of that task force has asked that this study, the waterfront study, be brought together with 2 other recreational studies, including a facility study and a trail study. And so council has, through our capital budget, included significant monies to bring those 3 plans together into one recreational community plan. So that process will begin. I'm not sure if the RFP's been let or whether they're working on it, but certainly that was already included in our capital budget, which was passed at the end of the year last year. So I would expect that before the end of this year, we'd see a refreshed waterfront plan as part of that other recreational study. So what I'd ask this committee to do is, and I will try to remember to bring this forward as I get more information for you, but be part of that plan, be part of that process as the new consultant, or it may be the old consultant, I can't remember, or maybe, no, the RFP hasn't been let, so we probably don't know who the consultant is. But as that consultant rolls through this process, I'd ask this committee to be engaged in all aspects of that plan, because recreational facilities, trails, waterfront, whatever, has everything to do with economic development as we move forward. So let's all be engaged in that process.
That's very good news. I'm glad that that's going forward.
So how can we be involved in it, in a real way, in a hands-on way, in that task force? If I understood you right, it's consolidating 3 different plans into one, and we'll be working towards either trails and waterfront and something else, recreation, I guess. How can we be involved in an official way?
Well, like any of those studies, Libby, there'll be a very public process, and what we can do is have that process come to this committee. We may be wise to ask the consultant to come to this committee and provide us with a report, and this committee can then make a recommendation to council to add information or comments to that public process, so that our ideas are encapsulated in the refresh of those 3 plans.
So do you know if a consultant has been hired to refresh the study then, or is it the same consultant, or how does that working?
I think there's 3 different consultants for the 3 different plans. So my recollection is that we'll have to put it out to RFP. So we're not actually tapping anyone on the shoulder. We're putting it up for a public consultation process. Will one of those 3 consultants likely be the group that does it? Probably. I mean, they have, at least one of them has a lot of background information on this. So it would be cheaper for the low bidder will be one of those 3 likely. just because they already have the background information. There's no need to reinvent that wheel. But I don't know who it will be. As you know, through the public RFP process, we'll have to wait and see how that rolls out. But I can circle back. I can circle back to Mr. Miller, the Director of Parks and Recreation. Ron and I will be seeing, and Emily, I think, will be seeing him today. So we can have a chat with him about where we're at in that process. It's only January 13th, so I would bet that we're not very far along.
So will there be one consultant to sort of marry all three? Okay, all righty. All right. Yeah, well, I mean, for one, obviously Karen, this committee, I would love to be involved in it. I just think it's so important to Brighton. So if there's anything that we can do, yes, it would be great to have the consultant present to this committee. Ron?
And you can count on the mayor and myself are both on that committee, along with Councillor or Deputy Mayor. Our Deputy Mayor Laura is on that as committee as well, along with Recreation and Planning. So we will be watching. We're providing the input too. A lot of this has been well discussed, and we're anxious to see some of these things move along. But we're going to do it in a systematic system, and to have one consultant is economically speaking makes a lot more sense than that can bring it all together. And they're sitting on the shelf now. Those studies are sitting on the shelf. They've been paid for. So now we just need to bring it together into something that's easier for the community to understand, and the community now to add fresh new input. And things have changed a lot in those years since those studies were done, even though they're not that lengthy time that they were done. Things are forever. We're moving faster than a lot of things. And there's new people that are interested in investing, and there's new people that are interested in using our facilities like waterfronts and recreation centers and potentially other recreation facilities. So we're anxious to get those things put together and get moving on some of those.
Mayor?
Yeah, just I appreciate Councillor Anderson's want to ramp things up and move quickly. He's a real go-getter, Ron. You really are. But I just want to make the point that 2 out of 3 of those studies really have been living, breathing documents over the course of their lifetime. And the Parks and Rec team have been able to check a lot of those boxes in 2 of the trail study and the facility study. Only really one of them has been put on the shelf and ignored, and that's the waterfront plan. And I think of note here is that had some of the things in the waterfront plan been rolled out and developed, we wouldn't have seen the level of flooding we saw in Gosport during the 17 and 2019 floods, because we were talking about break walls for public space, but also break walls to guard against lakeshore levels. So sometimes we do things and regret not doing them. So this is certainly a case where I think had we been a bit more proactive and used that study for public infrastructure purposes, we would have saved a lot of time and resources during that 17 and 19 flooding stage. I guess that's just my little snide comment. That's
I need to agree with you on that, because that's right. I was on council with you. I don't believe I was on your committee, but there was a lot of chatter about that. And as you say, it kind of got dropped with the next council. They just didn't see, and it was a grandiose plan, but there were small parts of that plan that certainly could have been implemented, and the ball was dropped, and that's kind of too bad. So yes, I for one too am glad to see it resurrected again, and that we can have a better look at it, because I think you're right. I think we missed the mark on that one for sure. At least, as you say, some of the smaller bits and pieces of that plan. So glad to see it coming back on the table, taking the dust off.
Well, that really is good news. Marty, did you have a point you wanted? No? Okay.
No.
That is good news that is being revisited and revised. And Ben, will you be involved with that committee as a department lead, or?
As of now, it's I'm not involved. It's a very recreation focused task group. I think, you know, anything to do with trails and new facilities is sort of out of my portfolio. Once it gets to the point of promoting new trails, new facilities, new lifestyle amenities, then I think that's where I would need to step in. But I think, you know, we did a lot of work last summer promoting Spinnaker Suites, and we did a lot of work last summer promoting Cottage by Callisto, and those are two new Airbnbs, two new, you know, really nice kind of boutique motels, if you will, that have popped up in Gosport, as well as I think Roger just finished the Baywatch themed one beside Spinnaker Suite. So there's a lot going on, as well as the restaurant. The marina's full. Probably a good time to mention the rowing competition that's coming through Brighton next September. It's an international rowing competition that's coming through the entire Quinte region. So there's a lot of exposure to our waterfront, but I'm on board with Mayor Ostrander. Nothing's going to really pop off until the infrastructure is adequate. There needs to be sidewalks. There needs to be measures that are going to limit flooding, because that's what really will perk the investors' eyes, is seeing those amenities from an infrastructure standpoint. And I know we do have significant residential interest as well out in Gosport as well. So I'll leave it at that. So there's a ton of investor interest in our waterfront. And it's just taking some time. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks. That's good news, great news. So maybe we can go back to the DBI update, Megan. How's the new tin roof going?
It was great up until the latest restrictions. So I've been, kind of focusing on this and how I can try to make it viable through these times. So I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. It lined up exactly with my opening. So I just couldn't make it, unfortunately, this time. But I definitely will be at the next one. The date hasn't been announced yet. So
Emily, were you at that meeting, the DBIA meeting? Okay.
Yes, I was. So there really wasn't a lot to update as far as our December meeting goes. And yes, our meeting for this month was scheduled for this evening, but we've decided to push it down the way a little bit. DBIA has been busy, as Ron brought up earlier, welcoming the new businesses to our downtown core. There's always a welcome package and some highlight given through our from our administration and some on our board. Trying to be busy with the Christmas decorations and everything. We are going to hopefully, based on council approval, partner with some new things going downtown for next year. So not a lot to report for this month, but hopefully next month we'll have some more.
Okay, thank you. And could I have a motion to approve both the municipal update and the DBIA update? Jessica, do I need two separate motions, or can we do them in one?
If you wanted to do, I'll whoever moves it will be moving both.
We'll be moving
but
for both.
I'll mark,
Okay.
yeah, as both.
Yeah. Okay, could I have a motion? Ron and Emily, thank you very much. So Laura is not here, so we'll pass on the Chamber of Commerce update. And we've done section 9. So how's this, Ron? We're at next meeting date.
Oh,
Excuse me, Libby,
Yes.
for a moment, under unfinished business, I have another question regarding the First Impressions program that we were involved in with NAPNE, and they were involved with us in that. What do we do with that now? We had a nice presentation from the NAPNE committee. They had some suggestions. They had very positive comments on that. I know that is a Ontario program. What goes forward from that, from some of those suggestions, from those recommendations, that sort of thing? I don't know that's here.
So the last time I worked on that project was a partnership between Frankfurt and Hastings. And at the time I was with the city of Quinte West. Frankfurt, of course, is part of the city of Quinte West. So what we did there was we took the report back to the committee that was a Frankfurt-based committee, and we tried to prioritize and categorize any of the big quick wins that came out of that report that was given to us by Hastings at the time. So I'm not sure if it's a good exercise to go over kind of the report back and pare down and see what the quick wins could be, what the longer wins could be. And if there's any of those questions that the committee or those projects that this committee could tackle and add into mine and Caroline's work plan. You know, I haven't looked at that report in a few weeks, so just off the top of my head, I know signage branding was a bit of a sticking point, and those are projects that are, I think, a council term away from really opening up. It's not in my 2022 budget at all. So those are kind of longer win projects. But I'm willing to open that report up and see what the committee can maybe pull out to try to hit on maybe this year. I'll let anyone else comment as well.
So Ben, I wonder if it would be possible to do just a page or one pager that would be like, these are the points that came out of it, so, and to identify which could be the short and long term for the next meeting. So maybe if you needed input from the committee, then we might either be able to give that or help in some way. Would that be possible for the next meeting?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Any other comments, new business, comments on the vice report, anything?
I have another comment on the First Impressions. It became very clear that the NAPNE committee was really impressed with our downtown, like the look of it, like the stores. One of the things that they mentioned, and we mentioned from a NAPNE perspective too, is the flowers that are downtown. I just want to put a little plug in now when the DBIA is considering doing more work downtown, that those flowers are a huge asset. I hope that there's money in whatever budget is there for them. People are really, it's amazing how they judge when you see all those lovely flowers and plants down in the downtown. It makes a huge difference. It made a huge difference in NAPNE plus, and it makes a huge difference going down the main street there. So keep it up.
Thank you for that. Yes, there's a lot of hard work that we've put into the flowers over the last few years. It's not just the flowers, it's the containers that they're in now. We've invested in self-watering containers so that our Parks and Rec, our municipal staff, don't have to be there every day loading, filling with water. There's a lot done, but yeah, there's a lot of focus put on from the DBIA regarding beautifying downtown, as with the Christmas containers, like say our Memorial Park. You know, as we hear comments at Christmas could be dressed up a little bit better. So that's our focus for this year, just put a little bit extra money in that, but not to worry, the flowers will hopefully look as beautiful as they always have the last few years. But
Thank
thanks
you.
for the compliment, and I will pass it on, or Megan can pass it on too.
I was just wondering, I don't know if this is the place to ask it, but the business that used to be Dragonfly, had there been any interest in something going in there, or it's kind of a prominent spot in the middle of the.
Actually, I will speak to that. They did have a poster up in the window saying that they were trying to be another cannabis store.
That's what I thought. That's quite a
Yeah.
while ago, so I didn't know if that had gone.
Yeah,
through
so
or-
that came down, the poster came down, I think, on the 14th of December. But I haven't seen any updates on it. I don't know how you're supposed to get updates on when people propose to move in. Do we go, like, I don't know, Emily, maybe you can field that. Like, do you go to council? Is it posted on the website or something?
No, we don't see any more than you do, Megan, as far as when the store opens is when the store opens, and we will know it the same day you do.
From
So
a
that's
cannabis,
on the books then, is it, Ben?
from a cannabis retailer perspective, you can track the status of the applications on the Health is it the Health Canada website or the OLG? I forget. There is a website you can track the cannabis retail applications
So I
specifically.
think it's the AGCO.
Yes, sorry. That's the one.
What is that again? Can you repeat that?
The-
Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario, AGCO.
Okay.
AGCO.ca will get you there somehow.
I did not know that.
I'm on it.
There's
Okay.
there's,
is there-
there's
oh, sorry.
communities with like 290 pending applications compared to our like 1 or 2 at a time. Just an FYI.
Any other new business, any comments, any questions for Ben or council? Well, we'll move to the next meeting date. Ben, did you have a preference?
No, I guess we floated into the second week of January here, or yeah, January. But if we want to get back on track, I think February 3rd is my little guy's 2-year-old birthday, and I know that that's a Thursday, so we can do that and get back on track. It's totally up to you guys, or we can go the 10th.
February 3rd? Okay. If you have the outline, the 1-pager of the FICE report in advance of that meeting, would it be possible to send it out with the agenda so we could have a look before? Take some
Absolutely, yep.
time? Okay, that's great. If there's no further business, then we will adjourn the meeting of the Economic Development Committee. Thank you, everyone. I would need a mover and a seconder for that. Karen?
So moved.
Seconder? Marty, thank you. So thanks, everyone, and stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.